Let me ask you something direct. Who genuinely intimidates you? Not the person who yells the loudest. Not the one who threatens. Not the one who fills every room with noise. Look deeper. It's the quiet one. The one who watches before speaking. The one who doesn't flinch under pressure. The one whose face reveals nothing when everyone else is panicking. That stillness? It's unnerving. And here's why that matters. The people who scare others the most are rarely the ones making the most noise. They're the ones making the least. Let me break the pattern right here. Most people assume intimidation comes from volume, from aggression, from dominance displays. But that's a surface-level reading. Calmness triggers something deeper. When someone stays emotionally still in a situation where most people would react, your brain flags them as unknown. And the unknown always feels more dangerous than the known. Think about it. You see someone explode with anger, you know what that is. You've seen it before. You can predict it. You can plan around it. But someone who sits in silence while everything burns around them? You don't know what's happening inside. You don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what they're capable of. And uncertainty always feels heavier than certainty, even if the certainty is negative. This is the first psychological anchor of this entire video. Calmness doesn't just look powerful. It looks dangerous, because the human mind fears what it cannot predict. Here's something most people miss. We're biologically wired to look for status signals. Who's in charge? Who's secure? Who's vulnerable? And one of the strongest status signals in human interaction is emotional control. Not physical strength. Not wealth. Not social position. Control over yourself. When someone stays calm under pressure, your subconscious reads it as, this person has resources I can't see. This person has a reserve I don't have access to. This person is operating from a place I can't reach. And that triggers something primal. Because throughout human history, the person who stays calm in danger was usually the one who survived. The one who could think clearly. The one who could make decisions. The one who could lead. So when you see someone calm in a high-stakes moment, your brain doesn't just respect them. It defers to them, whether you want it to or not. Self-control is one of the rarest forms of power, precisely because most people don't have it. Let me name something uncomfortable. Most people are incredibly easy to read. Not because they're expressive, but because they react instantly. Someone says something slightly critical, and they are immediately get defensive, over-explain, raise their voice, justify themselves. And every single one of those reactions is a gift of information to the other person. Because now you know what triggers them, what they're insecure about, what they're protecting, where their pressure points are. Every emotional reaction is a data point. And the more data someone gives you, the more control you have over them. Here's the brutal truth. Reactivity is the opposite of strength. The faster someone reacts emotionally, the easier they are to influence, manipulate, or destabilize. Anger shows you where someone feels threatened. Defensiveness shows you where someone feels guilty. Panic shows you where someone lacks confidence. And the person watching? They're collecting all of it, without saying a word. That's why calmness is so intimidating. Because a calm person doesn't reveal their pressure points. They don't give away what affects them. They don't show you where they're vulnerable. And that makes them impossible to control. You can only manipulate someone whose reactions you can predict. And calm people are unpredictable by design. Let me pause here and name something you've probably felt but never said out loud. You might feel uncomfortable around calm people. Not because they're rude. Not because they're cold. But because their stillness creates pressure. When you're in a conversation with someone who doesn't react the way you expect, your brain starts working overtime. Why aren't they responding? Are they upset? Do they know something I don't? Am I being judged? The silence feels heavy. The pause feels loaded. The lack of reaction feels like a test. And most people can't sit in that discomfort. So what do? They fill the space. They talk more. They explain more. They reveal more. Without even realizing they're giving away their position. This is the hidden mechanism. Calm people don't have to extract information from others. Others voluntarily give it, just to relieve the discomfort of silence. That's not manipulation. That's presence. And presence is one of the most underrated forms of power. Now here's where it gets interesting. When someone says very little, people start projecting onto them. The human mind hates a vacuum. If you don't fill the space with words, the other person's brain starts filling it with assumptions. And those assumptions are almost always positive. Here's what research on social perception shows. When someone stays quiet in a group setting, observers tend to assume confidence, competence, authority, self-assurance, high status. Because we associate silence with self-containment. And self-containment is a trait we attribute to people who don't need anything from us. The less someone needs from the room, the more powerful they appear. This is the silence projection effect. When you speak less, people assume you have more to say. When you react less, people assume you feel more deeply. When you reveal less, people assume you have more to hide, and they assume it's something impressive. Your silence becomes a mirror, and people see their own insecurities reflected back at them. That's why calm people intimidate everyone. Not because they're threatening, but because their stillness forces others to confront their own lack of stillness. Let me paint a scene for you. Two people walk into a tense meeting. There's conflict. There's disagreement. The stakes are high. Person A reacts immediately. The moment someone challenges them, talk faster, raise their voice, interrupt, defend every single point, over-explain their position, try to prove they're right. They look engaged. They look passionate. They look like they care. Person B does something different. They listen. They make eye contact. They nod slowly. They wait. When it's their turn to speak, they pause. A long pause. Long enough that the silence feels uncomfortable. Then they respond, slowly, deliberately, with fewer words than expected. Now ask yourself, who feels more powerful in that room? Most people say person B. Not because person B said more, but because person B needed less. Person A's reactivity signals, I need you to agree with me. I need you to see my point. I need to win this. Person B's stillness signals, I don't need anything from you. I'm fine regardless of the outcome. And that difference, neediness versus self-sufficiency, is one of the strongest status signals in human interaction. The person who needs less always has more power. Here's something most people don't understand about influence. Emotions are contagious. Not metaphorically, biologically. When one person becomes anxious, their body language, tone, and energy shift. And people around them unconsciously mirror that state. It's called emotional contagion. And it happens below conscious awareness. This means that in any group, the person who controls the emotional tone controls the group. Not through commands. Not through authority. Through state transmission. If you walk into a room anxious, the room becomes anxious. If you walk into a room angry, the room tightens. If you walk into a room calm, the room adjusts toward calmness. This is frame control. And calm people do it effortlessly. Because they don't absorb the emotional state of the room. They set it. When everyone else is panicking, their stillness becomes an anchor. When everyone else is reactive, their pause becomes a reference point. And people unconsciously orient toward that anchor. Calmness isn't passive. It's the most active form of emotional leadership. You're not reacting to the environment. You're shaping it. That's why calm people feel intimidating. Because they don't just exist in the room. They hold the room. Let me give you another layer. Predictability reduces threat. When you know how someone will react, you feel safe around them. Even if their reaction is negative. If you know someone will get angry when you say X, you can navigate around that. You know the territory. You feel in control. But someone who doesn't react predictably? That creates cognitive dissonance. Your brain can't categorize them. Can't anticipate them. Can't feel comfortable around them. And that discomfort registers as intimidation. Not because they're doing anything aggressive, but because your brain hates uncertainty. And calm people create uncertainty by not revealing their internal state. Every pause is a question mark. Every silence is unknown territory. Every controlled response is a withheld data point. And withheld data points create psychological weight. Here's the principle. The less people know about what you're thinking, the more weight your words carry when you finally speak. Because the human mind assigns more value to information that was harder to extract. We call this the scarcity principle of attention. Information that comes easily is valued less. Information that requires patience to extract is valued more. When you speak instantly, your words feel cheap. When you pause, your words feel earned. And calm people understand this intuitively. They don't rush to fill the space. Because they know that every moment of withheld reaction is adding weight to their next word. Most people confuse noise with strength. And I want to dismantle that here. At first glance, the loud person looks powerful. They command attention. They fill the room. They dominate conversations. But here's what reveals itself over time. Loudness without substance starts looking unstable. When someone constantly reacts emotionally, people stop taking them seriously, people stop trusting their judgment, people stop feeling safe around their unpredictability. Not because loudness is wrong, but because constant emotional output looks like lack of control. And lack of control looks like weakness. Think about the people you respect most. Not the ones you're entertained by. The ones you genuinely respect. They're probably not the loudest voices in the room. They're probably the ones who speak less, choose words carefully, don't react to provocation, stay consistent regardless of circumstances. That's real authority. Not the kind that demands attention. The kind that commands it without asking. Loudness is a temporary spotlight. Stillness is a permanent presence. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Most people aren't intimidated by aggression. They've seen aggression before. They know how to handle it. They know what to expect. What people are intimidated by, genuinely intimidated by, is emotional stability. Because stability is rare. Most people are controlled by their moods, external pressure, fear of judgment, need for validation, emotional triggers. So when someone walks into the room who isn't controlled by those things, it exposes everyone else. Their calmness becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, people see their own lack of control, their own reactivity, their own insecurity, their own neediness. And that's uncomfortable. So they project onto the calm person. They call them cold. They call them distant. They call them intimidating. But what they really mean is, your stillness makes me aware of my own instability. And I don't know how to handle that. Let me turn this toward you for a moment. Why did this video resonate with you? Maybe you've been the reactive person. The one who gives too much away. The one who talks too fast when nervous. And you recognize that pattern. Or maybe you're already the calm one. And you've noticed how people react to you differently. How silence gives you an edge you didn't ask for. The way. Awareness is the first step. Because once you understand why calmness intimidates people, you can stop trying to be louder and start becoming still. Let me give you something practical. Not theory. Application. Here's how you start shifting toward controlled energy. 1. Slow your response time. When someone asks you something, wait 3 seconds before answering. Not to look cool. To train yourself out of reactive patterns. 3 seconds is enough to choose your words, intentionally regulate your emotional state, signal that you're not rushing. 2. Stop explaining yourself. Most people over-explain because they're seeking validation. They want the other person to understand, which really means they want the other person to approve. Try this instead. Say what you mean. Then stop. No justification. No defense. No elaboration. Let your words stand alone. 3. Get comfortable with silence. Most people rush to fill gaps in conversation because silence feels awkward. But silence isn't empty. It's loaded. Every moment of comfortable silence increases your perceived authority. Practice sitting in silence without feeling the need to rescue the conversation. 4. Stop reacting to provocation. When someone tries to trigger you, notice the impulse to react. Then choose not to. Not by suppressing it. By observing it. Interesting. That comment was designed to get a reaction. I'm not going to give one. That awareness alone changes your default. Let me leave you with this. Calmness isn't weakness. It's not passivity. It's not avoidance. It's not suppression. It's controlled energy. And controlled energy is one of the most dangerous things a person can possess. Because energy without control is chaos. But energy with control is force. A river that floods is destructive. A river channeled correctly generates power. Same water. Different control. Most people are flooding. Calm people are generating power. And power that's controlled always feels threatening to people who can't control theirs. Here's what most people never realize. They spend their entire lives trying to appear strong. Talking louder. Reacting faster. Defending harder. Proving more. While revealing every emotional weakness in the process. But the people who feel the most powerful aren't the ones who show you everything. They're the ones who stay still long enough to let everyone else reveal themselves first. If this episode resonated with you, here's what to watch next. The psychology of why people test you. Because once you understand why people push your buttons, you'll stop giving them the reaction they're looking for. Subscribe. Stay calm. Stay dangerous.